All right, everybody, we are ready to get started with our work session. Tonight we do have an interview. Russell Bo Brown would like to join our zoning board. If you'd like to come up to the podium. You bring with you, of course, a wealth of experience that would be relevant to this position. But tell us why you would like to join the board, please.
I've done it for 40 plus years. I have knowledge of the town. I was born here, grew up here, still here. And I like zoning.
Takes a special kind of person. Anybody have questions for Bo?
I think his experience speaks for itself.
Anyone else? All right. Well, that was a pretty easy interview, I suppose. We will be able to let you know pretty quickly, I imagine, but feel free to stick around for the meeting if you'd like.
Thank you.
We appreciate you being willing to serve. All right. And now let's take a look through the agenda tonight.
You ready? Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So we've got a pretty full agenda with public hearings, but we'll start with licenses. We do have one license A, which is a permit for a road race. It's called the Ragnar Relay. It's actually a multi-state road race. We do have a representative who will be here this evening to explain the process, and the staff input was approval contingent upon the state, our DOT approval, because most of where they're planning to run in South Kingstown is on state roadways. So does anybody have any questions in that regard? We did have Captain Healy and Sergeant Souza of the police go through the whole route, and they did have some recommended changes, because initially they were requesting to run straight into Main Street, up Dale Carlia, and down towards Narragansett, and that was not going to work for us. So there were recommended changes to that route, and they've been in regular contact with the applicant, who is not, Ragnar is a national firm. They do these multi-state relays all over the country. And so this one starts in Groton and ends in, I want to say Quincy, but I'm not sure of that. So they have a short portion in South Kingstown. We have a few things on the consent agenda that are pretty straightforward in terms of licenses. Unless anyone has any questions, we can move to public hearings. And we have public hearing A, which is the Class B liquor license for Audrey's Coffee House and Lounge up in the Commons. As you recall, last meeting there was approval for their business license, and so this evening there's a public hearing for the liquor license. You will have to also consider adding a liquor license, a Class B liquor license, in the ordinance, so you'll be back and forth on that for this particular public hearing, and we would expect that we would have representation from Audrey's here. Next, we have a public hearing for a Class T theater liquor license for Courthouse Center of the Arts, and again, this was also on last meeting's agenda for a business license. You do have a theater liquor license available in the ordinance, so this is a public hearing to reinstate that for Courthouse Center for the Arts. We have item C is a public hearing with regard to expanding Middlebridge sewer area. And John can certainly speak to that if there are questions. He prepared a very detailed memorandum with regard to this. Would you like to hear more from John at this point, or would you want to wait until new business? We have some time, so.
We can wait.
Where's John?
He's back there, but we'll get him up here during the
Okay.
public hearing, and it'll be fine.
Okay. And then we have a fourth public hearing, which is the codification of a stop sign at Abbey Road and Winter Street, which is also part of a broader new business item that includes that, along with the amendment, well, that's the amendment for the motor vehicles, but the, what neighborhood is this? Street acceptance, right, okay, I just want to make sure I'm getting this right. And Jamie will be here to speak to this as well. Just let me see if I can find the acceptance of the streets for public ownership and maintenance, right, so that's Abbey Road and Winter Street. Sheldon Hill subdivision, that's what I was looking for. Any questions on that item? Okay. Under communications, we do have a letter from the State Department of Administration that certifies the approval of the South Kingstown Comprehensive Community Plan, and that's good news. And so that is in your packets. If you would like, we could also have Jamie come up and give a bit of a background on that, but that's good news for the town, so we're happy about that. We have a letter from Jen Kruger resigning from the Affordable Housing Collaborative. We have an email, item D on communications, from Susan Dunleavy with regards to a noise ordinance, and that email is actually the unruly gatherings ordinance, which was codified. She did receive that. I think she's part of a neighborhood association that needed it for their purposes, but for the council's information, that was adopted as an ordinance, and then it was in May, I believe it was, reintroduced at a public hearing for possible amendments to the ordinance to include some additional language. That public hearing was to be continued, and it was not ever placed on a subsequent agenda. I think a part of that was because of COVID limitations, and part of it was potentially oversight. So the council needs to decide what they want to do with that in terms of either continuing the public hearing or the particular ordinance that is in place now really hasn't been tested in that everyone's been isolated. And so there haven't been, I don't think, any unruly gatherings to speak of since COVID began. So that's something for the council that you may want to consider there. But
And just to elaborate on that, back in May 2020, the council postponed discussion of the substantive amendments to the ordinance by continuing the public hearing, but the council did approve at that time changing the effective date of the ordinance to September 30th, 2020. So the situation we have now, it is on the books as it was originally enacted. The only thing that's changed since it was originally enacted is the effective date has been postponed, but it is technically effective now.
Can you remind us of what the ordinance actually states? I remember it being like a gathering of 5 or more people and certain types of behavior.
that's correct. Public nuisance means a gathering of 5 or more persons between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. on any public or private property where conduct occurs that causes a substantial disturbance of the quiet enjoyment of private or public property in a significant segment of a neighborhood as a result of conduct constituting a violation of law. Illustrative of such unlawful conduct is excessive noise or traffic, obstruction of public streets by crowds or vehicles, illegal parking, public drunkenness, public urination, the service of alcohol to minors, illegal drug use, fights, disturbance of the peace, littering, or any other conduct that constitutes a violation of law or ordinances.
And then it was something that the property owner was liable for, right?
Correct.
And the whole idea was to...
Yeah, so it's set forth similar to the orange sticker ordinance that's effective in Narragansett, but without the sticker component. There were different effective periods for property owners and occupants. And so it set forth escalating fines, $250 for a first violation, $500 for a second violation. There were some significant amendments that were under discussion at that time, and I think the feeling of the council back in May 2020 was to continue the discussion on those amendments until in-person hearings had resumed.
Any questions on this item? Okay, thank you.
Maybe a quick question for you. There was no sunset clause on that ordinance, so there was no date at which it would expire. We'd have to consider it again. So it's in effect in perpetuity unless action is taken by the council to remove it?
That's my understanding.
Thank you.
Item E is resignation of Carol Vetter from the trustees of South Kingstown School Funds. As you know, Ms. Vetter is now a school committee member. And then if we move into new business, as I mentioned earlier, the council needs to consider adding a Class B liquor license to consider for Audrey's up in the South County Commons. We have item C, which relates to the memorandum from the planning director with regard to town ownership of the roads associated with the Sheldon Hill subdivision and the acceptance of the streets and the stop sign within that subdivision. Item D is, as you recall, at our last meeting, the council wished to recognize October as, I'm sorry about the pronunciation, this is a tough one, Dysautonomia Awareness Month. So we do have a proclamation or a resolution for the council to consider. Item E under new business is the purchase of a CPR compression device by the EMS department. And Chief Stanley is here, should the council have any questions with regard to that recommendation. Item F is a resolution that is rejecting a sole bid because it exceeded budget for system and fire suppression, fire extinguisher, and testing, maintenance, and repairs for town facilities, and that is recommended by our communications director. So that because they exceeded our available budget. And then the subsequent item G is a resolution recommending an award to Metro USA Fire Protection for a 3-year contract as specified in the resolution and also in Lance's detailed memorandum. There are no questions. We'll move on to item H. Mark Russo, our facilities superintendent, is recommending an award of bid to Smithco for heating fuel. That's pretty standard, so we are looking for a 3-year award of bid to Smithco. Item I similarly is for propane, to award a contract to Quality Propane, and that is for facilities in town that require propane heating. Item K is a recommendation to award a bid for the purchase of a mower for the wastewater division, and that's detailed in a memorandum from our public services director. If there are any questions on that? L and M are consent agenda items. If there's any questions on any of the consent agenda items?
Any?
And that is the extent of the agenda.
Thank you, Terry.
I'd just like to ask about boards and appointments. Is there a logic to how people come forward? Because people apply and sometimes they come right through, and other people apply and they don't. So I don't know how they, once they submit the application, why don't they come forward, like through to the interview? Do you want me to give you an example? So Lisa Beth Sanford, she applied on July 30th, 2021 for the PPAC. But
Can you speak into your microphone? I
actually never quiet. So Lisa Beth Sanford, she's just one example, or she applied July 30th, and I don't recall that she interviewed. I just didn't, then Bo Brown came, and he's right here. So I just was trying to understand how that works.
The Bike Head Committee was kind of in a state of waiting for what the council was going to do with their charge.
Mm-hmm.
And in the meantime, we were holding off on interviews. There's another applicant, for instance, for the Sustainability Committee that we invited to interview, and she put us off and hasn't accepted an invitation to interview yet. We try to prioritize boards that are in dire need of members getting appointed, and then we have to work with the council's time availability to schedule interviews and start meetings earlier if need be.
Thank you.
Basically, that's how it goes.
Thank you.
Terry, I got a question for you. An act was recently signed into law that would allow cities and towns to set up programs for homeowners to get tax credits in exchange for giving volunteer hours. I'd like to ask if there's been any inquiries into that from citizens in SK, and what we would need to do to sort of take effect on that or take action on that.
So we are currently trying to calculate what the impact would be for some type of ordinance that would allow for tax credits for senior volunteer service. I've got our finance director and our tax assessor doing calculations to try to determine what would be reasonable, because we certainly don't have the ability to allow for everyone age 60 and older, nor do we have the volunteer opportunities for that many people to come in and volunteer and get a tax credit. So we are exploring things like income-based eligibility, so that homeowners who are low mod income would potentially be the first to be eligible for that type of thing. We're aware of only one city at the moment that does that, and that's the city of Newport. And I think their maximum right now, I believe, is $500, and they do it for greeters at their city hall. So we are in the process of trying to develop some proposals for the council to consider for the tax.
Is it possible we could get a report related to those potential proposals by the next council meeting, or is that too soon of a turnaround?
No, I think we could turn that around.
Awesome.
To give you something to at least consider.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the agenda or anything else?
I just have a general question about the Housing Authority, and we had a letter from Laura Lee Costello saying that the laundry was almost complete, and I think they had a September 30th deadline. Do you know if that has been completed?
That it hasn't been completed. They were waiting for an approval and a revision of their scope of work. They needed to do some
exterior painting, I read, but has the interior, are they operating? Is the laundry operating?
I don't know the answer to that. I'll find out.
Thank you.
All right, if I don't see any other questions at the moment, we can take a 10-minute recess here. and then begin the regular session at 7:30.
Just saying. Did you notice that I wrote like in bold, I am replying all for this reason? I mean, oh yeah. You? Brother-in-law was there last night. They were, I'm going to count the number of times.
Last minute always takes a long time to pass. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of the South Kingstown Town Council. It is Tuesday, October 12th. The time is 7:30. Our first order of business is the pledge to the flag. Please rise and join us. Thank you all. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Council President Collins.
Here.
Council Vice President McEntee.
Here.
Councilwoman Bergner. Here. Councilwoman Kelso.
Here.
Councilwoman Rose.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you. Item 4 is the approval of minutes of previous meetings.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 4A and B.
I'll second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously, and that brings us to item 5, the consent agenda.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Deb Bergner, I'll second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously as well. Item 6 is a resolution this is under licenses, 6A, a resolution granting a miscellaneous permit to conduct a portion of the Ragnar Relay New England Road Race on Friday, October 22nd, 2021, from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. in South Kingstown to Ragnar Events of Salt Lake City, Utah, subject to the execution of a hold harmless agreement indemnifying the town, issuance of a certificate of insurance naming the town as an additional insured in the amount specified by the Finance Director, and Rhode Island Department of Transportation approval. Application by Amber Sadlier, Senior Race Director. Is Amber here, or somebody to represent the... Please just come over to the podium, state your name for the record.
Good evening. My name is Heidi Veltheim.
And I am Carol Knoyer.
All right, welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
This may be the first time I've seen the Ragnar race come through South Kingstown. Tell us a little bit about it.
So the race company is based out of Salt Lake City, Utah, as you just mentioned. It is a family event. It's a 200-ish mile point-to-point relay. It's going to start in the city of Groton in Connecticut and run up through to Massachusetts. So it'll cover 3 states. There are about 140 teams that'll be participating. There are 2 vans per team, and in one van there's 6 people, in the other van there's 6 people, so 12 people get to share in running this 200-ish miles through the night, through the daytime, all the way until the finish. The goal is to try to finish within 24 hours. Some teams achieve that and other teams do not. But we have, the way it's set up along the course, the different exchange points that you go to, they have a closing time, an opening time and a closing time, and then we have staff kind of following runners along the course to make sure people are having fun and getting to the destination they need to get to safely.
That sounds very intense. So people are actually running through the night at like 4 in the morning?
Yep,
Oh, wow. Okay.
headlamps. They have headlamps. They're required to have safety gear on if they're out of the car anytime with the nighttime hours. So nighttime hours start before sunset and go up to a little past sunrise. They're required to wear a headlamp. They're required to wear at least a reflective vest and a blinky light on the back so that they can be visible to vehicles and other runners and just people in general.
Questions?
What is the route through South Kingstown?
So the route, there's actually 2 exchanges in South Kingstown. So it's going to depart at St. James Chapel on Matunic Schoolhouse Road, and then we'll arrive at Matunic State Beach. That's one exchange, and then the runners will leave there Matunic State Beach, and then they will arrive at the First Baptist Church of Narragansett. I can tell you turn-by-turn directions if you'd like to know all the roads that they're going on.
Are they running on Route 1?
So they're running on Matunic Schoolhouse Road, Moonstone Beach Road, Cards Pond Road, on the sidewalk on Matunic Beach Road, Peninsula Road, Ocean Avenue, that's on leg 9, and then leg 10 is Victoria Lane, Kettle Pond Road, and then Post Road, and then South Pier, and then Lambert Street. And along this section of the course, there are flaggers, so safety flaggers, for where they're going to cross, where there's more traffic, or potential for, more traffic to be, so that for the safety of the runners. But it is an open course, so no roads are closed. There's no road closures.
Has the course been approved by the police department?
Yes.
Yes.
And they actually asked us to do a little bit of a reroute. But to answer your question, there is on leg 10, they do, when they go from Kettle Pond Road, they will go on to Post Road, which is 1A. We do have cones set up. We have a coning company that will be coning between where the cars will be and the shoulder for the runners, so that they will be safely off that area so that they'll be protected.
Is that little section, I'm very familiar with that section. I run that road. It's on the highway. Is that the only time that the runners will be on Route 1?
Yes.
In your
town, yes.
Okay. But they're running with traffic.
In that one section, yes. They're running inside the cone section with traffic in that section.
Which is normally, we know if you're a runner, that's not how you run, but it was deemed by the police department and DOT not safe to have them cross and run against traffic. So they run one person at a time, like a traditional relay team. So during that time span, there will probably be anywhere from 1 to 30 people on that road at peak time. So we do a staggered start so that we don't have all 140 teams have somebody start at the same time. We stagger it from slowest to fastest so that we can kind of control and have people sprinkling in through your town and not have it get congested.
And they run single file, so they won't be running like buddied up next to each other. They'll be running single file for safety reasons. And at the peak time, we're expected to have at approximately 35 runners at the peak time. So other than that, it'll just be like a few runners here, a few runners there. It would just look like people, if there weren't cones and people, staff and crazy vans, it would just look like people out for a jog.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion?
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 6A.
I'll second.
Moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, very good. That motion carries unanimously. Good luck.
Thank you.
That brings us straight to our public hearings tonight. 7A is a public hearing relative to an application for a license to keep and sell alcoholic beverages in South Kingstown in accordance with the general laws of 1956, as amended as follows. Class B victualler liquor license, application for a Class B victualler liquor license by ACL, doing business as Audrey's Coffee House and Lounge, 60 South County Commons Way, Unit G2, Wakefield, by Jared Haben, member for the dining room and bar areas, further defined in a site plan on file in the town clerk's office. Said license is contingent upon the issuance of a certificate of good standing from the Rhode Island Division of Taxation, filing of a certificate of insurance evidencing required liability coverage, compliance with all town ordinances and regulations, the payment of any municipal taxes and user fees and arrears to the town, and the correction of any fire code violations. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. It's Attorney Stephen Surdit here tonight on behalf of the applicant and Attorney James Callahan. We believe the application is complete. My client is here if you have specifics regarding what their intent is and where they intend to operate and how. As you likely recognize the address, it was formerly a coffee shop. They intend to continue to operate a coffee shop, but as you know, everyone is looking for alternative ways to make money and increase revenue and be open more hours. And as in surrounding communities, coffee shops that also serve alcoholic beverages within all the regulations have become more and more popular, and it's a good mix. And my client's looking to move forward on that business model. So we'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have, and then we'll sit back down. I know you have to amend your ordinance as well, so we'll wait till that occurs as well.
Questions for the applicant?
I have a question. Outdoor seating, are you intending that? Because this application just says dining room and bar.
Yes, we are. I'm sorry about that. I didn't know it was going to be that loud. Yes, we are intending to have outdoor seating when weather cooperates, but just right on the sidewalk, probably maybe 3 tables, and all the tables would be either 2, possibly 4 seats at each one.
So a question for the solicitor, how do we amend the application to allow him that or not?
I think you have 2 options. You can either continue the hearing until they provide you a site plan, or if you're comfortable, granting it contingent on site plan to be provided and administratively reviewed. So you have 2 options.
Obviously, we would prefer the second option. Thank you, Ms. Counselor.
Yeah, so once we get into the outdoor seating, then we're into kind of policing that, right? So is your outdoor seating going to be gated, fenced? Is it just right on the sidewalk? How are we going to deal with?
It's right on the sidewalk.
And we'll separate it from the sidewalk, and we'll work with your administrative staff to make sure that we address all issues, especially if there's going to be alcoholic beverages served, trash, and as well to make sure that we don't block access along the sidewalks and any other aspects of that.
And right now, I know there is a state generated provision here that's allowing for take it outside, right? But we have a sunset on that in March. So how would we deal with that, Amy? Are we better off to do it now, or what do you think?
That state law, to me, is really more about enforcement of ordinances related to zoning. This is, you're granting a new liquor license, so I think you have complete discretion, and in my opinion, the state law doesn't come into play here.
Okay. That's the extent of my questions.
Any other questions from up here? All right, seeing none, it is a public hearing, so I'm going to open it up to anybody else in the audience who might have something to say on this matter. All right, I see none. Do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. At this time, I'll bring forward item 12A, which is a resolution affirming or amending the town's liquor license rules and regulations, Section 1. The current number of licenses for each class shall be authorized as indicated below, unless changed by a majority vote of the town council. In this instance, we're looking at the Class B victualler license, which would need to go from 28 to 29. Do I hear
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to amend the number of outstanding Class B victualler license from 28 to 29.
I'll second.
All right, so moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. And do I hear a motion on 7A?
I'll make a motion to approve 7A contingent on a site plan provided and administratively approved relative to the outdoor seating.
I'll second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Good luck, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Have a great evening.
You too. 7B is a public hearing relative to an application for a license to keep and sell alcoholic beverages in South Kingstown in accordance with the general laws of 1956 as amended as follows. Class T legitimate theater liquor license. This is application for a Class T legitimate theater liquor license by South County Center for the Arts, doing business as a Courthouse Center for the Arts of Kingstown Road in West Kingston, by Marianne Almonte, Executive Director for the first and second floor of the building, in accordance with a special use permit granted by the Zoning Board of Review on November 28, 2012, further defined in a site plan on file in the Town Clerk's office. Said license is contingent upon the issuance of a certificate of good standing from the Rhode Island Division of Taxation, filing of a certificate of insurance evidencing required liability coverage, compliance with all town ordinances and regulations, the payment of any municipal taxes and user fees and arrears to the town, and the correction of any fire code violations. Welcome back, Marianne.
Thank you.
So I think we're fairly familiar, but just for the benefit of everybody else here, just tell us about Courthouse Center and how you make use of this license.
After COVID, I'm going to get drunk on it myself. It's been tough. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and everything we do in that building to raise any money in any way, shape, or form is to pay for the free programs in arts and theater and music for not just everyday children, but what we like to call differently abled children. These programs are provided for free, and now, just before COVID, about 6 to 8 months before COVID, we expanded them to differently abled adults, which happens every Tuesday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. They get the same classes that are afforded to the children for 21 and over, and they bus them in from places like the Fogarty Center. We give the building away for free to first responders, fire department, police department, nurses. Now we've added them in with first responders. We give them away. We give the building away for free to people who can't afford to have a wedding. Who else? Basically anybody that needs it. We like to be an integral part of the success of this community, and we do as much as we can for free. So the bar is pretty much the only place we make money, besides the fact that we, the grace of God, the kindness and generosity of other people in the community has helped us to provide all these things for free. I don't understand why I'm here to ask for this license again, except that being inundated by work with COVID, I guess I forgot to re-up it. To pay for an application fee sets us back a little. We don't have any money. I don't take a pay. We're run by volunteers. So this whole thing has been pretty disappointing for me, and I sent an email to the entire town council, of which I never got a response to. The said license is contingent upon the issuance of certificate of good standing, so I realize I have to get that. The certificate of insurance was already submitted, and I believe it hasn't expired yet, but I'll check on that and see if I need to submit another one. The paying of taxes that's listed in here is done by the State Division of Taxation, and it's already been done, as my understanding is. It was paid in the wrong quarter, a quarter of which we were closed completely. And the state has to take the time to switch that over to the correct quarter. So you'll be getting your $12.83 as soon as they tend to that. We paid user fees for last year for all these licenses, of which we didn't use the license, and it was refunded to us without letting us know, or I guess I didn't see it with the now 19,000 emails I have in the 10 accounts that I have to look at. Yes, I'm asking for your help in this, and I'm asking that we don't pay the rest of the amount that we owe. I believe what Susan said today was $254. We don't have it, and we can use that for something else that's much more important, especially since we paid it already. Not sure why it's listed, the fire codes. I'm sure that's probably a standard thing.
Yeah, oh, that whole section is sort of boilerplate with
All
every
right,
one of
so
these.
we're in compliance, and we were when we were told that we were not, and that was disappointing too. We were shut down with a notice on our front door that said we were shut down for violating fire codes. However, the fire marshal sent an email to everybody at the town telling them that we were in no way not in compliance. We were in full compliance at that time, but that notice stayed up there for quite a while, and that was pretty embarrassing for somebody who walked into a building and 2 days later was shut down for violating fire codes, of which I took a week 6 years ago. This happened. My second day on the job, we were closed. And in 1 week's time, we fixed everything in that building, and it's been working perfectly ever since. So that was disappointing too. So that was it. I'm a little COVID cray-cray, and I thought since I never got a response from my email, I'd let you know all my complaints. Other than that, the bar really is the only place we get the money, except, like I said, the grace of God and the kindness of the community. So we just want you to approve our liquor license, which we've had for, 36 years, beer and wine, and then 10, 15 years ago we switched into hard alcohol. I also submitted a new map that included a little bit of the outside. We have outdoor seating for our patrons, and we take an intermission to which people like to stray outside. We have cameras all around the building. We can see them. We have volunteers on site that make sure everything is in line, and we have responsible bartenders that aren't over-serving anybody. Knock on wood, we haven't had any incidents at the building. So it would be, I think when we went in and finally looked at it, it said that we only had a bar on the second floor. We've never had a bar on the second floor. That's where the performances take place, but our bar is located on the first floor. The patrons are allowed to take their drinks up to the second floor and drink them while they watch the show, but we have we have this little bar that we've taken up there for sold-out events, but we don't use it that often. We don't have sold-out events that often. We are looking to expand to put a second bar on the second floor. It would be much easier than using the first floor, and we'd probably make more money at it being right there next to the room, but we haven't done that yet. It would probably cost us about $254 to do that. Anyway, so that's it.
Thank you.
Unless you have questions.
I will ask everybody. First, Susan, did you have anything you wanted to add to this?
A couple of things. The Class T legitimate theater liquor license under state law specifically allows for the service of alcohol, I believe 1 hour before performances and then during intermission. It does not allow for them to act as a bar for private parties. That is not included. Also, under the special use permit, which they were granted back in 2012, they were only allowed alcohol service on the interior of the building. There was no exterior alcohol service.
When I resubmitted can I speak? Is that okay? When I resubmitted the request this year, I X'd off the areas that the patrons would be drinking, and I included that to be in the outside perimeter of the building on actually just two sides.
So this is where the overlapping jurisdiction of the zoning board and the council comes into play. Usually you see these applications after the zoning board has already reviewed and approved something contingent on your decision. Now, if you approve this, it's going to be the other way around. Susan is correct. The special use permit specifically, if alcohol service is permitted by a special use permit in a certain zone, the zoning board has to grant it for a certain area of the premises, inside or outside. So if only the inside of the premises was specified back in 2012, they'll need to go back before the zoning board for expansion of that special use permit to the exterior of the building. So your approval can be contingent on zoning board approval. And the only, I just want to clarify, the license can be active except for the outdoor service which won't be allowed unless and until the zoning board approves that.
Does that make sense, Marion?
I would just like to make sure you understand, it's because you are a special use permit that's happening. So you're not allowed to serve outside. Have
Okay.
people drink outside right now. You'll have to go to the zoning.
I don't
board.
serve outside.
Well, I know, but you're not allowed, people aren't allowed to consume alcohol outside the building right
So we would have to ask them to leave it in the building to go outside.
Correct. Until you go before the zoning board and get the zoning board to amend the special use permit that would allow that.
To include outside.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay? I just want you to make sure you understand what we just talked about here.
Okay.
Okay.
And similar, you might want to combine that if you do want to put a bar in the second floor, do it all at the same time, because that would also be part of that special use permit.
Intented events on the lawn next door, unless that would fall under a caterer's license.
There would probably, you could either do that under a caterer's license or like one of those Class F 19-hour. No, couldn't do, no. No.
They're not eligible for Class F licenses because they hold a Class T liquor license.
Can I ask why it's called a theater license? We don't have any theater there except for the children, and there's only one or two grandparents that need a quick shot of scotch before they see the show. Everybody else drinks soda at it. I'm just saying, that's the way it goes.
You applied for a Class T legitimate theater liquor license for the Center for the Arts performances.
I was told that's what I
Special
had to
license.
apply for, but I don't know how, what other name would it be called?
You don't qualify for, let's say, a Class B license because you're not a restaurant, you don't have a full kitchen, you don't meet those requirements.
Then why do I pay a meal tax?
That's with the state, I have no idea what you pay.
That's the 1% that comes to you.
The beverage tax, food and
Meal-
beverage.
it's-
Pays the beverage.
It would
It's a
be
food
tax
and
on the
beverage, but we don't have any food.
But it's a combined tax, food and beverages,
Oh.
and that's a state tax.
So what liquor license should I be applying for?
This is the only one you qualify for.
I don't, isn't there several of them?
The theater license in state law was developed specifically to be available to institutions like the courthouse center. And the limitations on that license, I could be wrong, but I think are reflected in the lower fee for the license, correct? Okay. Considering that, that the legitimate theaters are, include nonprofits. So the events are relating to art, the legitimate theater or community artistic experiences held on the premises. That's what the license can be used in connection with.
Right. So it's a pretty specialized liquor license. There's that provision just an hour before the start time of the performance and then up to an hour afterwards.
Okay, so when I give the building away for free to somebody who needs to meet after they buried their child, and I give them the room for free, and they have a meal and bring in a caterer, I'm not allowed to give them anything from the bar or sell anything from the bar at that event. So how would I get a license to cover that?
You would have to hire a Class P caterer for those types of events. Your license does not allow you to serve the bar for private parties.
For private
That is not the
parties.
intent of the Class T legitimate theater liquor license.
So so I have to pay to become an incorporated caterer and then apply for what license? I can't just stop giving these
If there were a
free events to
performance at
people.
the,
I mean, somebody called me on Thursday to say they were burying their daughter the next day on Friday, and I said, of course you can come in and use the building. And will you provide a bar for me? Yes, I will.
Can't do that under your liquor license.
So I would have to apply for a caterer's license with the state and then apply for what type of a liquor license with you?
Unless you have a full kitchen, you don't qualify for a liquor license that the town would issue. A Class P caterer's license is entirely different, and that is through the state. I don't know what their requirements are, but I don't think you can get a Class P caterer's license simply to serve alcohol. You would have to be a caterer providing
So
food.
we do have a kitchen, but how do caterers come on site and not use my kitchen?
I don't deal with caterer's licenses. I can't answer that question for you.
You might consider contacting the Department of Business Regulation, because they do regulate Class P. They can give you a list of licensed caterers and can explain the regulations for a Class P, because I don't think the courthouse center would be allowed to hold a Class P itself if you're getting a Class T legitimate theater license, but you can contract with a licensed caterer to achieve what you want to achieve.
So I would have not been able to give the building for free to that family because I'd have to pay $550 to a caterer. I think we took in $60 at the bar, of which we still have to pay an 8% tax on. So you can't hold two licenses in one building?
Let me say this. I think if the event fits within the box of state law, so if the event is in somehow relating to art, if it's somehow a community artistic experiences, if it's just what you're describing, which to me sounds like a memorial service, perhaps there's a way that could be that could fit into the box of state law.
Could I get the caterer's license and that class license and get rid of the theater license?
I certainly would contact the Department of Business Regulation about this, because I think when you're asking about the interplay of state and town licensing,
You have to be approved from the state
contact
first.
them first,
Okay.
correct?
Okay, that makes sense. All right, anything else? I'm here.
If Mary Ann is holding an event, I mean, for the bereaved family, and there is an artistic component or music,
That's what I think that's a good
right?
tactic.
So
There was music played.
I've been to memorials where people have their artwork. You know, the person is an artist, and there's a display. I mean, can we expand how Mary Ann Monte looks at what she's providing? Because I think she has a sort of a narrow scope of, I'm only doing this, but
I mean, our office is happy to work with her. I do want to encourage her to contact DBR, and we'll work with the clerk's office as well, because what I want to be sure is there should be some standards for us, and I'm not sure who it would be, quite frankly, if it would be the council or the clerk figuring out whether each event, you know, it's fairly easy. If a theater has a show, of course they're allowed to exercise their license, but I want to be sure if there's some kind of delegation of authority to figure out whether an event fits within the legitimate theater license parameters. I want to think about how we can make that work.
All right. Other questions for the applicant? All right, seeing none, again, this is a public hearing. If there's anybody who would like to come forward and speak to this matter, please do so at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing none, do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. And do I hear a motion on 7B?
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 7B contingent on the zoning board approval of the expansion of the special use permit to allow outdoor consumption of alcohol on the premises.
I'll second.
So moved. I just
wait a
want
minute.
clarification on...
I think you might want to amend that. We just want to approve it as written, and then the applicant can go to the zoning board, and that will come before us to expand their liquor service. But if you do that, she's not going to be able to operate.
I think Councilwoman Kelso is correct on that.
Question for you, Assistant Town Solicitor. So the motion that I just made wouldn't allow them to operate currently, limited to indoor consumption of alcohol?
If you grant it contingent on zoning board approval, then no. So I think unless you specify that the contingency only pertains to outdoor service. So either that amendment or, as Councilwoman Kelso suggested, I think would allow them to go forward except for outdoors.
So is it possible for me to make a motion to approve this public hearing here, and in addition to that, allow for our approval of the expansion of the special use permit contingent on the zoning board approval?
Yeah, so just state, provided that outdoor service shall not be allowed unless the zoning board approves the expansion of the special use permit to the outdoors.
Okay. I'll revoke my motion, and I'll approve 7B as it is. And in addition to that, relative to the outdoor consumption of alcohol, we pass that to contingent on zoning board approval of expansion of the special use permit.
Do we want to add the second floor bar service to that expansion, if that's going to be sought? Otherwise, she's going to have to come back here. Okay.
That's the floor plan that I submitted for this meeting, was the first and the second floor. So
We would need to strike the second floor service area, right, in the application.
Yes, the clerk's memo to the council does indicate that in 2012, the zoning board granted a special use permit for alcohol service for the first and second floor of the building, so that would be allowed.
I think your last motion was good.
Second.
All right.
Second.
Motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Good luck. Sorry for all the hurdles there. That brings us to 7C, a public hearing relative to expansion of the Middlebridge sewer area to incorporate a portion of Tax Assessor's Plan 43-1, Lot 1 into the Middlebridge sewer area, subject to the terms and conditions set forth in the Town Code, Chapter 19, Utilities, Article 2, Wastewater Management, Section 19-146, Special Area Sewer Assessments, Fees, and User Charges.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Eric Privy, P-R-I-V as in Victor E. I'm a registered professional engineer with DePrete Engineering. I'd like to go through briefly, actually, the memorandum that was put together by the Public Services Director is very concise, spot on, talks about everything. So I don't usually like to just read verbatim, but it's really well done. So I'm just going to put it real briefly, if that's okay. The property is located at 415 Middlebridge Road, known as Assessor's Plat 43-1, Lot 7. It's a 3.13 acre parcel owned by Dr. William and Carol Correo. It's within the R20 zone, so 20,000 square feet per lot. Has 400 feet of frontage along Middlebridge Road as well. In the memo dated September 13, 2021 from Public Services Director John Schock, he mentions that in October 1992, the town of South Kingston Town Council amended the wastewater management ordinance, which established the Middlebridge sewer area. This amendment incorporated, among other things, a sewer lien assessment for infrastructure improvements and a delineation of properties eligible for connection and assessment. The creation of the Middlebridge sewer area and the subsequent sewer service construction was the result of numerous failed septic systems and cesspools in the Middlebridge area of town. At the time of the sewer system construction completion in 1992, and once all project costs were determined, the town council established a specific benefit sewer lien in an amount of $1,659.31 for each of the 326 lots that were within that district. The request for the sewer district expansion is what we're here for tonight. We're requesting one additional service. Subsequent to the town council creating the Middlebridge sewer system, a limited number of property owners have requested consideration to connect to the municipal sewer system. Connection to a town municipal sewer district, either Middlebridge or Diana Drive, is governed by Chapter 19, Article 2, Section 19-146, Item K of the Town Code. As detailed in the attached correspondence dated September 9th from Dupree Engineering, is requesting consideration to expand the district for one new proposed lot on behalf of the client. We're going to kind of go through, I'm actually going to ad-lib this a little bit and take a couple of pieces out here, just kind of summarize it a little more here, sorry. In addition, the collection and pumping system has sufficient capacity to accept this additional one to accommodate the new flow with it. And based on the aforementioned information, the Department of Public Services Director has no objection to the proposed subdivision connecting to the town municipal sewer system via the conventional gravity sewer collection system. In order to be considered for the municipal sewer service, the town council must authorize incorporating the additional lot as well. So, as I mentioned, it does have 400 feet. There's one single family house on it today. We actually went through the planning board process. We had proposed to subdivide to put one additional lot on there. That's when it came to our attention that we needed to get the new sewer service through the town council. There were actually, in great foresight of building it, there was actually a secondary stub that's already there today, so in order to not have to damage the road. So there's already a unused one on that portion where we're looking to put it today. So that's kind of the general summary. I'd be happy to answer anything as well.
Great, thank you. Susan, anything to read into the record for this one? All right, any questions? All right, very good. Thank you. Is there anybody from the public who would like to comment on this matter? All right, seeing none, do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Anyone opposed? That motion carries unanimously. And do I hear a motion on 7C?
Motion to approve item 7C.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously as well, and that brings us to 7D, a public hearing relative to a proposed amendment to the Town Code, Chapter 10, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, as follows. Chapter 10, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Article 1, in general, Section 10-12, Boulevard and Street Stop Signs designated, and this would add Abbey Road and Winter Street traffic to stop on Abbey Road at the intersection.
Mr. President, Jamie Rabbit, Planning Director. With regards to your statements, simple request with regards to the public hearing. There is a development that was approved by the Planning Board. It has been built out. It is looking to bring Abbey Road and Ashbury Lane into the public domain with regards to maintenance into the town's road system, as well as per your ordinance, bringing in that stop sign at the intersection with Winter Street into the town's system. So we also are in receipt of the maintenance surety from the developer, Thomas Moore, so that is already in place.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Anything for the record? All right, very good. Is there anybody present who would like to speak on this matter? All right, seeing none, do I hear a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that brings us to item 8 on the agenda, communications. 8A is a letter dated September 15th, 2021 from Meredith. Oops. Got ahead of myself. Do I hear a motion on 7D?
Motion to approve 7D.
Second.
Motion, second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. And that brings us to item 8, communications. 8A, a letter dated September 15th, 2021 from Meredith Brady, Associate Director of the Department of Administration, Division of Statewide Planning, certifying state approval of the Town of South Kingstown Comprehensive Community Plan 2021, as adopted by the Town Council on May 24th, 2021. What would you like to do with that one?
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion that we accept 8A, and I'll place gratitude toward the planning board and the planning department as to all their work that they put into this. This is something we've wanted to get achieved, and to see that we're in compliance is a great thing. So thank you.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. 8B is a letter dated September 24th, 2021 from Jennifer Kruger advising of her resignation from the Affordable Housing Collaborative Committee. That has been received. What would we like to do with it?
I move that we accept Jen Kruger's resignation from the Affordable Housing Collaborative. We thank her for her service.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That motion carries unanimously. 8E is an email, 8D is an email dated October 5th, 2021 from Susan Dunleavy concerning a noise ordinance that was received and placed on file. I don't know if Susan is here or was able to did she get feedback from the town on this letter?
Yes, she did. I did respond to her with the existing ordinance related to unruly gatherings, and as discussed in the work session, the council can determine whether or not you want to revisit the public hearing from May 26th, which was continued but never added to a subsequent meeting.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion on 8D?
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion that we refer 8D, communication to the town manager's office.
Can you elaborate on that? For what purpose, Rory?
For the purpose of the request as it relates to a copy of the ordinance has already been provided to the taxpayer.
Great. Second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion?
I have just a point of clarification, maybe. In the email, this resident expressed that she had contacted the PD and said that they were unable to provide her with that. Can we get a copy of that over to the PD so that going forward when residents call, they can get that information?
Yes, we did.
Thank you.
And there is clarification on that.
Excellent, thanks.
So we did discuss this a little bit in the work session, and this was discussed in May 2020 when some of us weren't serving on the council. So it's a point for the community to know that that was enacted and became effective in September 2020. Some of us were still not serving on the council. There was discussion about making some changes in amendments. This council has not taken up any sort of amendments or any discussion about it. So that public hearing was continued, and we can, as a body, decide to bring that ordinance back and discuss amendments, correct? Okay.
Correct, and it would have to be renoticed, of course.
Correct. And just for the community who may not have been listening at 7 o'clock when we discussed it, we have had no feedback from the community who wants to activate and utilize this ordinance to address any unruly behavior, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All right, is there anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. 8E is an email dated October 6, 2021 from Carol Vetter advising of her resignation from the trustees of the South Kingstown School Funds. That has been received, placed on file. What would you like to do with it?
I move that we accept Carol Vetter's resignation from the trustees of the school funds and thank her for her service.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. That brings us to item 9, comments from interested citizens. Anyone who would like to speak tonight on any given matter is free to come to the podium. Please state your name for the record.
Yeah, well, before we open the floor, may I just read a very brief statement that I prepared in regards to public comment? It's brief.
Sure.
It's brief.
Typically, we wait until public comment is.
So 2 weeks ago, as I am sure others were, I was very bothered by what happened during community comment, and I feel that I would be remiss in not sharing my thoughts. I don't want what happened last meeting to deter anyone from feeling welcome here. We are always open to respectful dialogue and recognize that difficult conversations are often the space that we find growth. I hope that all community members feel welcome and encouraged to attend and participate in our meetings. Thank you.
Is it my turn?
First.
Good evening. So I'm going to try to stay very focused here, try to stay on target. I also was very disturbed by what I saw 2 weeks ago. I've never seen that before. I've never seen a town council, at least 2 out of 5, attack a private citizen while they were speaking. I found it horrible. I took the time to call the state police. I got a copy of the police report. I was dismayed to find that the citizen who had been speaking was correct. Everything that she said was correct. So then I took some time to look at the charter, and I looked up the town council president's role and privileges. It is ceremonial. The town council president by charter does not have any further privileges than anyone else up there. So my question would be, and I also looked back at the minutes from September because the police report states that Mr. Collins stated he held a meeting with town council members and the decision was made not to cooperate. So I looked back at the minutes and I said, no executive session in September at all, no other meeting notices. So I don't expect an answer because I don't expect an answer. But what I want to know is, did an OMA occur? Did an Open Meetings Act violation occur? Or did the town council president violate the town charter? Or both? Both of those are very serious questions. I don't expect an answer tonight because I don't assume that you'll give me one. But I'm not going to stop till I get it. Thank you.
Roberta Mulholland, South Kingstown. I'm going to follow a little bit of what Jocelyn spoke about, because I think it's important that when you take an oath as an elected official, that you understand it means something. You took an oath to follow the charter. In case I didn't introduce this, this is about your September 27th meeting and the treatment of a citizen at this podium that was appalling. I was appalled. And in 30 years of meetings, I have never seen anything like that in this chambers, and it's an embarrassment for our town. It's an embarrassment for our council. You're a ceremonial figurehead, Abel. You're nothing more. You get to cut the ribbons and lead the parade. Under the charter, all authority of this body is given to the council, not one of you, not the president, not the vice president, the council. You took an oath to follow that charter. Abel Collins isn't new to this. He knows this council acts as a body. And yet, when a woman comes up to this podium and makes allegations, in fact, allegations that turn out, once we saw the police report, to be whistleblower allegations of wrongdoing by the council president, it is up to the rest of the council to speak up. Thank you, Councilwoman Rose, Councilwoman Bergner, for speaking up. No council president should ever silence a council member at that table. The fact that over the years I've watched Abel silence the women at that table appalls me. I've written you about this. I've stood at this podium about this. It continues. You take an oath that says, I solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the constitutions and obey the laws of the United States of America, the state of Rhode Island, and that I will in all respects observe the provisions of the charter and ordinances of the town of South Kingstown and will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of council. You didn't do that. You told the state police that this council had decided not to pursue charges with respect to Linda Savastano. I too went looking for the executive session that would have happened between when you spoke with him in August and August 27th when you spoke with him again. I found no executive sessions. I found no agenda of a public meeting where that was on the agenda. You didn't follow the charter. Unlike your title, Abel, the oath isn't ceremonial. The oath is a promise, a solemn promise of elected officials regarding your behavior, your future behavior in that seat. That seat that belongs to the people of this town, these chambers that belong to the people of this town. You have no right to say someone is unwelcome here. Thank you, Councilwoman Rose. You have no right to tell anyone they're unwelcome when a citizen stands at this podium and in good faith, and we found out absolutely truthfully, makes allegations that you've engaged in wrongdoing. That oath, they're not just words, they're a binding contract with the people of this town to hold you accountable for ethical service, ethical actions, and ethical decisions as a town council member. We have another part of our charter called the Code of Ethics. It requires elected public officials to adhere to the highest standards of ethical conduct, to respect the public trust and rights of all persons, including people that you don't like who are standing at this podium, to be open, accountable, and responsive to the people, to avoid the appearance of impropriety. Even if we hadn't found out it's true, the appearance of impropriety was there. All of you have to be watching that. Our charter also provides for the council's removal of a member. Our Constitution of the State of Rhode Island provides that officials elected must adhere to the highest standards of ethical conduct, respect the public trust, the rights of all persons, be open, accountable, and responsive, avoid the appearance of impropriety, and not use their position for private gain or advantage. Such persons shall hold their positions during good behavior. Abel's conduct regarding the secret calls with the Rhode Island State Police, his representation that the council had decided not to pursue charges. We knew that just watching the meeting because 2 councilwomen had never heard of that. Only Abel and the solicitor had knowledge of those telephone calls. And I'll ask you why your solicitor doesn't report to the entire council what's going on.
Roberta, I'm just trying to wrap it up at this point.
I'm going to try to wrap up. Thank you for reminding me 5 minutes. I'm used to it. I never feel welcome here since you've been in that chair. Your continued sexist and discriminatory treatment of women in these chambers and at that council table, speaking to women like they're children, scolding them, the bullying, the gaslighting, the intimidating tactics you engaged in on September 27th, directed toward the woman that was standing here. Not only did you tell her she's not welcome, you had the police chief come up and hover over her. How much more intimidating can you be? That woman did nothing wrong except she did nothing wrong. She did tell the truth about your actions, which were wrong. Referring to a citizen's reputation and trying to malign their character, that is bad behavior. Trying to do that to influence other people's beliefs in what she's saying. We know that there was a whistleblower in this situation. We should be thanking her. We should not tolerate a council president who would try to shut her up. It's a disgrace. Just a disgrace, Abel. But you disgrace the entire town council, and not everyone deserves that. If Abel doesn't do the right thing and step down, I'm asking that you vote to remove him as soon as possible. SK has been through hell for the last few years. This town and its people have been divided and upset. It's time to stop it. It's time to do what's best for this town. This council already had a trust problem. This isn't making it better. This is wrongful conduct. And if it isn't a crime, it should be a crime. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure procedurally. I would like to add some of the topics that Roberta Mulholland addressed to the agenda, but I don't want to prevent other people from coming up. So I'm procedurally asking what is the best way, because there are many things that I think people besides Roberta would like to hear answers from the council. I would like to provide some information. I would like that opportunity so I can do what's best for the community. I will add it to the agenda now or take further comment and then add it after further comment.
That's up to the council.
So I would like to move that we have a discussion about the state police report, communications between the town solicitor and the council president. I've become aware of numerous instances that I want to bring up and I have questions about. So I move that we have a conversation on those topics.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
So I have a little concern.
Discussion, please.
The town solicitor is not in attendance. If we're going to discuss things pertinent to him, we can certainly talk about the first item. If you want to talk about that state police report, I'm okay, but if we're going to discuss something regarding the solicitor and he's not here, I'm not okay with that.
So I have some questions about the role. How about the role of the town solicitor? The
Who
role.
would those questions be addressed to?
Well, Amy's here.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer general questions, but specifically regarding communications that took place or may have taken place, I've got to defer those questions to Mike, and as you know, he's not available tonight.
And likewise, I'm happy at a future meeting to meet in executive session to discuss the town solicitor, their role, and some of these actions, or I'm happy to do it at a future meeting in the public view. But these are things that we need to be able to discuss.
I don't disagree.
Okay.
I just think the
Okay.
timing tonight is not right for that discussion.
Fine.
Discussion on the state police thing, absolutely. It's out there. Happy to talk about
So the state police and the role of the solicitor and the council president needs to be addressed. I'd like it to be added to the agenda.
Can we add that so that it follows the public comment instead of interrupting public comment to interrupting, but instead of prolonging public comment?
All right, so it is still comments from interested citizens, if anybody would like to speak. Oh, we have a motion.
It's just a motion in a second.
Yeah, we can vote on the motion. Yeah, we need to vote on the motion. Further discussion on the motion.
I think we were hoping to have it after community comment. Does that work? Okay.
The motion's on the floor right now, so we need to address it. We can, if you want to withdraw the motion, you can make it after public comment. We would still need to vote on that.
Right.
So we'd still need to
The
discuss.
motion would be to add that to the agenda after community comment. Correct?
Right. So any further discussion on the motion is what I'm seeking now. All right. Is there anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Please proceed.
So I'm the woman that Roberta Mulholland was talking about and the other people. My name's Nicole Solis, and I'm going to read into the record the police report that I was talking about when I came here. And everyone, again, can look it up. It's reference number 21RIX1-1360-O, F as in Frank. This is the narrative of Detective Adam Houston of the Rhode Island State Police. He says, on August 16th, 2021, I received an informational packet containing an investigation performed by the South Kingstown solicitor, Michael A. Ursillo. The investigation details the release of minor student names and addresses to an outside agency by then South Kingstown Superintendent Linda Savastano. I spoke with Mr. Ursillo, who advised that the facts contained within his investigation are accurate. Furthermore, I spoke with the complainant, Nicole Solis, who advised that the South Kingstown School Department published the report on their website where she obtained it. Ms. Solis then filed an incident report with the Wickford Barracks questioning the outcome of the investigation and whether or not criminal charges should be filed. The following is a summary of the investigative findings, which I won't read because we know what those findings were, and it included a finding that Savastano deleted her entire computer and her email, and the computer is owned by the town. This narrative from Detective Adam Houston ends here. After reviewing the facts contained within Mr. Ursillo's report, I discussed the facts of the case with direct supervisors regarding possible criminal charges. It was determined that due to the computer and email being owned by the town of South Kingstown, their town council must decide as the victim of the case to pursue a further criminal investigation and formal charges. During the month of August 2021, I contacted Mr. Ursillo to discuss his findings. Mr. Ursillo advised that he and a large team of attorneys conducted the investigation and dedicated, quote, an extraordinary amount of time, quote, on the case. Mr. Ursillo disclosed to me that he and his team deliberated after his findings and concluded that criminal charges would not be appropriate. During the month of August 2021, I spoke with South Kingstown Town Council President Abel Collins. I was inquiring whether or not the Town Council had reviewed Mr. Ursillo's report. Mr. Collins advised me that they did in fact review the report and were going to discuss whether or not they would pursue criminal charges at the next council meeting. Mr. Collins advised he would contact me after the meeting in September, and I'll just break here for a moment. That meeting never happened, or if it did happen, it was secret. Detective Houston continues. On September 27th, 2021, having had no contact with Mr. Collins, I reached out to him through telephone. Mr. Collins advised that the town council discussed the investigation and decided not to pursue criminal charges. On September 27th, I spoke with the complainant, Nicole Solis. I advised Ms. Solis that due to the town council refusing to pursue criminal charges, the case will be closed. Ms. Solis had a question regarding the open meeting law, for which I referred her to the Attorney General's office. I also advised her to contact me with any further questions. What we see happening here is the town solicitor, who doesn't need to be here. He's not a witness. This isn't a trial. We can discuss anyone here. They don't need to be here. In fact, we discuss plenty of people that aren't here. There's absolutely no reason why we can't talk about this without Ursillo being here. He is having secret conversations with the police. Abel Collins having secret conversations with the police. And we have to check up on you to make sure you're doing your jobs. That's ridiculous. The entire investigation that you conducted about Savastano is undermined now. We can't believe anything you said. You're sitting here saying, oh, we made everything public. Apparently you didn't make everything public after this conversation. And I wouldn't be surprised if at the next town council meeting, you all are going to come back in here and be like, oh, we talked with the police and actually there are no charges to pursue. Yeah, I know. The story's different now. We're all friends. And we're all going to change that story, aren't you? Maybe someone will move to amend this report after a little conversation with the state police. See if that happens. You should resign, Abel. People don't like you. They don't think you're trustworthy. And you prove that you're not trustworthy. And I have a lot of questions about Ursillo now, too. Happy Columbus Day.
Thank you. Anyone else?
This hopefully should be quick. This is just something that was brought to my attention in the beginning of the academic school year this year. I heard that there are an awful lot of children from the South Kingstown staff and faculty who don't live in South Kingstown who are now attending South Kingstown schools. Over the course of the fall, people keep talking about it, and then a couple people were wondering if they had to pay tuition. So at the estimated cost of, I'll say, $25,000 per pupil, I know that number kind of throws around. Early last week, I asked our acting superintendent and our assistant superintendent this question, and Gina got back to me a couple of days later. And I just wanted to know, guys, if you are aware that, this is going back to Linda, on Thursday, June 24th, having already been told that she was going to be let go, Linda and the president of the teachers union, Brian Nelson, I believe, I just forgot his last name, they signed a document allowing all teachers and administration of South Kingstown to enroll their children in South Kingstown at absolutely no charge. And I just have a question of how can they be the ones to determine how our tax dollars are being used. I asked Gina if she knows exactly how many non-residents are currently enrolled as students in South Kingstown and that are not paying tuition, and she does not know the answer to that, and she does not know how many families are taking care of this incredibly generous offer that an exiting superintendent and the president of the teachers union made with, I'm assuming, none of you knowing. I'd really like you to look into this, find out who's paying for the unknown number of children who are going to school on our tax dollars,
And what else Linda signed on her way out?
Excuse me?
Yep, Kate Johnson. Thanks.
Thank you.
Amy Goins, quick question for you. Does the superintendent of schools have the authority to approve such a thing?
I would have to research that. I will say from my general knowledge, that's typically part of the contract, right? That would typically be something that would be negotiated with the teachers' union. I don't know the circumstances here. This is the first I'm hearing of it.
I would like to answer, but I don't know if we're going to go into add it to the agenda. So there is a memorandum of understanding that is in place that was signed by the former superintendent. Ms. Johnson is correct. It may have even been in place prior years, but it was just recently renewed. So I think that her ask is a good one. Could we find out how many students are children of current teachers that are taking advantage of our school system? And I hear what she's saying is that there are maybe 5 that are at Matunic, so that's changing the enrollment numbers over there. And what are the implications to that?
I would suggest refer this subject to the town manager's office for a report back on those numbers.
Okay. Do I have to say that, or got it, Terry? Thank you.
You can make a motion for referral only, right? So this topic wasn't on the agenda. The council can vote to add something to the agenda for discussion purposes or to refer it to an appropriate official or committee. So you can add it to the agenda, and then I would suggest refer to the town manager's office.
I move that we refer the information provided by Ms. Johnson to the town manager's office and request an update at a future meeting.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Greg, sorry to interrupt.
No, not a problem. My name's Greg Sweet. The last few years, we've had a real difficult time in South Kingstown with transparency issues, and things were starting to look pretty good, and I think we were getting past that. The last town council meeting seemed to do away with all the progress that was perceived to be made. I don't know how, I don't know what, or I don't know what could be said to reassure the town that this is not going to be business as usual. This was a huge slap in the face, for me anyways, and I do believe others. The way Nicole was treated last meeting was terrible. I wouldn't treat my dog that way. Deb was also treated pretty badly too. She was told basically shut up. She couldn't ask Nicole questions. I do think the town council owes both of them a huge apology, both public and written. No one should ever have to go through what they went through. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no other public comment. Is there comment up at the table?
So I guess the last meeting I felt really uncomfortable. I just feel like no matter who comes to the microphone, because I've stood there a lot for a long time, it's a very intimidating experience, and I think that no matter what you want to say, whether you want to read a recipe or you want to read the Riot Act, you have the right to be treated with respect, and I feel people come up and say lots of things that I don't agree with, but I think I fully believe that people have the right to stand there and say whatever they want. I was confused myself when I wanted to ask a clarifying question, and I guess this is for the solicitor's office. I wanted to ask a follow-up question, and I was not allowed to, and that probably I think we're here because I couldn't ask any questions. I couldn't follow up with the questions about that. So am I allowed, when the person is at the podium, to ask a question?
The rule on open meetings is different for school committees and town council, so I'm only going to talk about the rule that pertains to the council. Public comment is for the council to listen, right? When you begin to engage with someone who comes in, it starts to become a discussion, right? And even if it's one council member engaging, that's why our office has advised when you know, maybe one question, okay, but when it starts to be a back and forth, and certainly when multiple council members want to engage in a dialogue on that subject that wasn't on the agenda, you can do that by majority vote for discussion purposes or to make some kind of a referral, not to take formal action on. So that's up to majority vote of the council to add something to the agenda for discussion.
Thank you. So my question again is, community members have spoken. We've added something to the agenda, but now they're not allowed. We're not going to be dialoguing with them. The agenda item now becomes something that we discuss at the table. So I feel like that isn't what I intended. I feel like I want to be able to ask in a public meeting a question of a resident. When or how do I do that? Because now I think I've set up something that wasn't my, I want to have that conversation, but I also I wanted to ask other questions that night that I couldn't ask.
You can vote to keep public comment open.
Okay.
And to invite whoever back up to the podium. You can also vote to schedule a special workshop for dialogue.
Okay. So I do regret that I didn't know that I should have been more assertive and allowed. I was shut down from really asking the questions about the state police report. I would have wanted to have that then. I don't think that we've been sent that yet. I don't know. Have we been sent that, Terry, the state police report that they're referencing? I also feel very confused about the timeline of all of this, and I think that people in the community are asking why this wasn't added to the agenda after the last meeting, because there's a lot of questions about the investigation and where it has landed.
So the state police report is public information, but it has not been sent specifically to the town council's attention.
So a community member sent it to us.
And the town solicitor's office, or Mike Ursullo, had indicated that he will be providing a follow-up memo to the council upon his return, which he will be back for the next council meeting.
So I just want to be clear. Have we begun that agenda item that we added to the agenda a couple of minutes ago?
Sure,
I
yes.
think that's, yeah, okay. So that's a fine way to begin it. I think...
So, are we on it?
Sure.
And please don't take this harshly, but this is not the first time that I've learned about your role, you using the role as the town council president to do things. So the first time was post the failure of the school bond. You met with RIDE, and we heard about it secondhand. And then we're hearing about this conversation with the state police that we didn't know about. And it's clear that the president's role at the town council is to lead the meetings in ceremonial. So we didn't hear about it from you or the solicitor in August or September. And then we got, after the agenda was posted, we got a 5-page email from Linda Savastano, which references a third time where you're communicating with the town solicitor and the former chair of the school committee, and Linda Savastano is saying something about how she wanted to meet with legal, and she was waiting to meet with legal. And so the four of us, I can only speak for myself, I did not know that you were having that conversation. So 3 times since May, and I'm wondering how many other times does it happen that we're not getting informed as a body, either from the town solicitor, that this information isn't coming from them, and it's not coming from you. And so it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to be flat-footed when the community is bringing the information to us. So this 5-page thing from Linda will come in a public agenda in 2 weeks, I guess. But it does say, does talk about you in that role. So if your role is only ceremonial, why are you not informing us?
I mean, my role is not, the president's role is to, manage the meetings, act as a head of government, special circumstances, sign stuff, whatever. But all of us are public officials, take meetings all the time. And I don't, my job in those meetings, when people want to have, a discussion with me, is to say that I'm not representing the council as a whole. I have, this is my opinion on a particular matter. I'm sure you also have meetings about things that are happening in town with constituents or what have you.
But this is
so people talk to you about an issue. I'm not gonna stop you from doing that. Similarly, I wouldn't expect to be expected to just be in a bubble only to be a town council president when I'm here in the council chambers. If Linda or Emily called me, of course I'm going to talk to them. I'm the thing that I can't do is promise them votes. I can't act as though I know what the council is going to do in any particular matter.
So the line here from her memo is, for my own part, I did share with the town council president, the school committee chair at the time, and the town legal that I thought it would be beneficial that if I met with the town legal and discussed what had happened. So I was not aware ever that conversation was going on. So 3 times that I've been informed by others that this information, and it's not coming to me. And this, in and of itself, is eye-opening, but again, finding out that you're acting in, when you tell the state police, and I'm going to be very careful because there's confidential information, that we're not going to pursue charges when we didn't have that conversation, given all that we've talked about in executive session and information that we have, it's extremely confusing to me, because I can understand why you might have said it in June, but I don't understand why you're saying that now, and
I think there's a very simple explanation. It's because we released the report, as you recall, in August. It was a long time before we actually had a chance to discuss it at the table. I think we all remember that discussion. We were all here. And that is what I related to the officer when he called me. That I didn't have any other meeting that I was talking about. And there's a lot of this talk about a secret conversation with a police officer, but I don't know. I don't think that there's any stipulation that I have to talk about every time a police officer calls me. That's not,
I think it's a little different when it's this topic that the town has been talking about for 6 months. It's not about put a stop sign up.
I didn't put a stop sign. It's ridiculous to me to presume that the state police would do what I wanted them to do. They're not supposed to take political influence from the governor, who actually might have oversight over them. The local police department isn't going to do what I ask them to do. And that is great. That is the way justice is supposed to work in this country. What I said and what the police officer had was a report that said there was no illegal activity. So when we discussed it here at the table, there was no follow-up to pursue charges. That's what I told the state police. I encourage everybody to read the report. There are action items there at the end that people can take on an individual basis, civil matters. Pursue them. But I did not hide anything from the police. I just related the conversation that we had here at the town council.
I can agree with that for August, but on September 27th, there's other information that I'm confused why you did what you did. And it's not, I'm just confused when they're asking you the wiping of I walked out of the meeting. The next day I called Houston, and Captain Moriarty called me back, and the wiping of a computer, according to him, is not a crime. But if it's done in conjunction with another act, it is a crime. So I just was confused why you would convey at the end of September that information, that we weren't going to do that. Because we didn't vote on that part. I understand the act that was not criminal, according to Mike in the report, was the releasing of the names. That's not a criminal act. It might be wrong. It might be unethical. That's all I had to go on. The officer never mentioned anything about erasing data or emails or anything. His question to me is, what's the council doing now that it's released the report? He didn't ask about, some computer crime that might be investigated. That is made out of whole cloth. I don't know what that means.
So my confusion, I guess, is really at what point, so for instance, if you have a conversation with someone, that's one thing. But if you have a conversation with someone pertaining to something that's been before the council, that's been a big thing, at what point does it become necessary to report that back to the council? Because I didn't like being blindsided by it, whether or not it was right or wrong. I felt like it was information that I should have had if somebody came to me and said, hey, did you know about this? And I could have said, oh yeah, we talked about this at this meeting then. But when we find out in a public place like in the way that we did, I feel like it makes me think that there's a reason it wasn't shared with us. And I hope that that's not the case, but appearance is everything.
So, Amy, is there a way for us as a body to say to the president of the council, whoever that may be, here to the future, we would like a report from you, weekly, monthly, like the interim town manager's report, right? Here's what I have. And perhaps a report, we could somehow make this part of the process of electing a president to say, we'd like that interim report from you. So no one feels blindsided. Is that something would that violate open meetings if it was just information outgoing but no response coming back or between, right?
Just to clarify, you're talking about adding that, say, report from the council president to the agenda at open meetings, so there would be no open meetings
or
issue.
The interim report.
Yep, there
right?
would be.
We could say, in your capacity as town council president, what did you do this week? Well, I cut the ribbon, right? Or I had a conversation with RIDE.
Yep.
To get that information to the four of us without violating an Open Meetings Act.
So I had that conversation with Mike as well, and he said that we can inform him of anything, and then he can transmit it back to the whole council, and that would not be a violation of OMA.
Yeah, and I think the other way you can do it, if you want to, you can amend your code of conduct, or you can just pass a separate resolution just adding that as a
Like
duty
requesting that information
of the council president.
But it does all predicate on being trustworthy. I mean,
Of course it does.
but I point out 3 examples, and Abel, I'm sure there are many times you're in the grocery store, you're not going to be like, I have to go back and tell the council I talked about the Veterans Day parade. I don't expect that. But the big issues were the bond. So the meeting with RIDE came out as sort of an afterthought. This state police came because someone was doing their due diligence, and Linda Savastano basically tossed you right under the bus in this. So I don't expect you to tell me about the grocery store, but I think as a council, we need to know the other things. And likewise, I am disappointed in the role of the solicitor that we are not getting this information, not in real time, but ever. We weren't getting that had Nicole Solis not showed up and said, do you know this is going on? We weren't getting that. So that is a disappointment to me, and I would expect better, because I think the law firm's been here for 20 years. It gives me great concern that I now have to be watchdogging. And to be very honest, there's a list. So at some point, I think we need to have an either executive session, or I'm happy to have the conversation in public about the role of the solicitor and the solicitor's office, because I feel like we're not getting served in the way that I would expect. Either my expectations are wrong, or or my alignment is wrong, or your alignment is wrong, because this controversy didn't need to happen had we been informed. That's what I 100% believe. So I don't know how to answer some of Nicole's questions, because can we undo what President Collins did? Can we communicate to the state police? Because I'm hearing the community is very upset, and if Linda Savastano committed a crime, I am not going to stand in the way of that. That the community wants her held accountable. If wiping the computer in correlation with another crime comes out, I don't want that to have washed it away. So how can we undo it? Do we need to take a vote? Do we need to come back at this another time?
The council needs to vote on anything you direct as a body. You, as an individual councilwoman, and any of the other members of the council, you can call the state police whenever you want, speaking for yourself.
Correct, but that's not what happened here, and that police officer assumed a higher responsibility of the town council president and took that and closed the investigation. So
I think that's a misreading.
I think that's a misreading. I think I've read the state police report, right? I agree. Everything in there is absolutely true, but I think where we're missing is we did take a vote, a unanimous vote, on August 10th, right? We went into executive session. Everybody can check the minutes. We came out of it, in the minutes, we came out of executive session, item 13B, we voted to release the memo, right? Yes, we approved and released the memo. The item on the agenda and in the minutes says, with some amendments, right? Within that memo, it says, the investigation is closed. That's like the last line of the memo completed by the solicitor's office. That's what it says. We also accepted the recommendation of the solicitor that criminal charges were not achievable, were not warranted. And that's also contained in that memo. And we voted to approve that 5-0 on August 10th. Right? So if there is something new happening that outside of what we approved and unanimously voted on, then that's a whole nother
river stream.
If that's something we want to pursue. But we, in fact, closed the investigation. Correct? People had concerns. Concerns were addressed. We came out. We voted to close the investigation unanimously. No question. August 10th.
But information, am I interrupting
So then
you?
we need to, if there's something anew, then we would have to start something else. This memo regarding the mailer is concluded. We voted on that. If we're going to reopen it, that's a whole nother item, right? But we did that.
So I had a little bit different of a take on this in reading the report. It mentioned Ms. Solis as the complainant, and I am assuming that the town council would have to be a cooperating witness in order for any charges to stick.
That's a new complaint.
So,
right? Is that what you're talking about, a new complaint?
right. But I think that when Abel said, no, we're not going to pursue that, that was taken as the cooperating witness that we see to be necessary is not going to cooperate, therefore we can't pursue our investigation, our being the state police. That was my take on it.
Okay, I'm going to read what Mike sent us today, which I think is pertinent. It says, both the state police, including command staff and the Attorney General's office, concluded that no criminal statute was violated by Linda Savastano and no charges will be brought. The lieutenant I spoke with said that this information could be made public. The decision not to press charges was made independently. Whether the town would be supportive or not did not influence the decision, as would be the case in any such circumstances. I will prepare a memo to the council upon my return on October 19th. However, in the meantime, I would appreciate if you would share this email with the council so that they hear it firsthand before it becomes public. Now, again, when the police officer called me, he didn't talk about any ongoing investigation, whether there was a criminal complaint. He asked me what the council was doing with the report, and that is what I told him. And I didn't tell him to stop an investigation if he was undertaking one. I didn't ask anything about that. I just told him what he asked, and that is what I hope other people do if the police call them.
I agree, and when we accepted Mike's report, it was an investigation of the mailer and how the names of the children were used. It was a very limited scope, and I'm 100% agreeing with you. We voted 5-0. We accepted the report. That was August 10th. It is very difficult for me to keep talking because there's some confidential things that are not out in the community. So I'm confused on why you took the action you did in September. So that's where I'm stuck. If there is no criminal wrongdoing, it was unethical, it was wrong, the community didn't like what Linda Savastano did, we got that. Wiping the computer as a standalone is not a crime. Wiping a computer, he told me, in conjunction with another crime could be criminal. So I'm just confused on how we were telling the state police we weren't doing anything.
Because we're not. Because we're not. That's how we tell them. We're not. We voted to close the investigation and to accept Mike's recommendation. Now, if we find reason to instigate or in another investigation, then we can do that. But we did that on August 10th and then also on September 23rd, correct? Because then we amended it again with the O and all of that, right?
Exactly.
Twice we did this with the original memo. We have never discussed, although the clearing of the computer is contained in the original memo, that's there, we never discussed pursuing that. That's not something that is contained in the memo. So answering the state police, we are not pursuing charges is because that's what we voted on. That's what I voted on.
So because we added this to the agenda, we cannot take action on this, correct? This was added to the agenda.
You can refer it to the appropriate official. So our office, the town manager's office, or any other referral you want to make.
I would like us to, at some point, be able to vote whether or not to cooperate in any future investigation concerning Ms. Savastano. So how do I get to that point where we vote on that?
So that's got to be on a meeting agenda, and you may or may not want to have the discussion in executive session and the vote disclosed in open session. That would be up to the council. But
I did ask the same thing. How can we undo what was done? I'm sorry that I'm a novice, but I feel like I go to the meeting and then I walk out and I realize I should have done something else. So I did ask, can we undo what we didn't vote on?
So again, tomorrow, or I'm pretty sure the state police have someone on at night. Any member of the council at any time can call the state police. As a body, you have to, your actions have to be noticed on an agenda. You are permitted to have discussions in executive session, as you know, regarding investigations of criminal or civil misconduct. You may want to have that discussion in executive session in the future. You may want to have it in open session. But to vote, you need to have it on an agenda.
So what I could do is write an email to the town council requesting action, and it would be as a communication item on our next agenda. Is that how I would go about it?
Unless you want to call a special meeting.
I don't think it needs a special meeting, but I think it needs to definitely be on an agenda, and I'm not quite sure how to get things on an agenda and make sure that they are there. So I guess I'll just write the email to get it on the agenda. Does that make sense?
So that also speaks to the question people ask, why isn't it on the agenda? We don't set the agenda, and so is our only avenue to write an email to ask for a communication item? Or can we say, I would like this added to the agenda, then we need to get another person to tag along with us?
You can request anything to be added to the agenda.
Any member of the council can ask for something to be added to the agenda.
And what's the process for who decides whether or not it actually gets onto the agenda?
It'll automatically get on the agenda if you ask for it.
Okay.
So, Amy, I got a question for you. Mike Ursillo has communicated to us that the memo will be provided upon his return from vacation relative to whether any criminal charges are being pursued by the state police. Now, if in that memo he iterates to us that the state police is not pursuing any charges or there's no activity that warrants a charge, how can we then take action to decide if in fact there are charges, we will cooperate as witnesses to pursue it?
Put that as an item for discussion and action on a duly noticed agenda.
So taking action contrary to advice of our attorney is something I guess we could always do, yeah?
Your council can disregard attorney advice whenever it wants.
Thank you.
So I also would like, in this setting, and another agenda item is to review the rules and the rules of conduct, because I think we need to go back and maybe make some adjustments to make sure that we're all clear on what we're doing and not doing, because we are here and we just shouldn't be. We owe the community a lot more transparency, and I, having been on that side and now on this side, understand fully what it's like, and I feel like if the council doesn't know the information, that's wrong, because it seems like we're perpetuating small groups know some things, other people have small dialogues. That's not what this is about for me. I'm not here to have a secret meeting and set an agenda forth privately. So the community, I feel the community wants Linda Savastano held responsible for any and all crimes and things that she did. And so that's what I'm hearing over and over. The state police, I wish we would have known. I wish we would have known a month ago in August, 2 months ago, really. It was 2 months ago, was August 10th was one of the meetings. And it just doesn't, it takes 5 minutes to write an updated email. It just didn't happen, and it really should have, because it's now 9:20, and it would be much more productive use of our time if we had the information ahead of time and we didn't create a dynamic where the community were super sleuths trying to help us figure things out. That's all.
Let's not paint this picture like there's a super sleuth. The super sleuth engineered this controversy that you're talking about by giving the report to the officer and then crafting the narrative that I was having secret conversations and Open Meetings Act violations. That's what happened here, and that's why we're still talking about this now. All I did was respond appropriately to the state police when they contacted me.
I think I've said it clearly. I don't think you responded appropriately for the body of 5, and they took it as the body of 5, and I don't think, given what we know, that would have been my answer.
Again, Ursillo writes, the decision not to press charges was made independently. Whether the town would be supportive or not did not influence the decision. I said nothing to direct any investigation that the state police might have going. I don't think they ever had an investigation going because they could read the report that we published, and it showed that there was no criminal conduct. So they had no reason to be having any investigation that we're contemplating. Now, going forward, in terms of transparency, I think that's fine if you want to have a president's report, but I think it would be helpful for everybody on the council to submit the same type of information. I'm not the only one being approached by whoever, interest groups, constituents about specific items. So what is
RIDE is not a specific interest group. It was about the bond. Linda and you were talking about the mailer, and she wanted to sit down with legal. We didn't know that. We did not know that Linda wanted that. In fact, I didn't think she wanted to talk to anybody. She didn't appear at the meetings. She walked away after executive session. She wrote a letter to the community. She didn't. So when she says that she wanted to speak, I might have wanted to know that. It might have changed something for me, and maybe I would have wanted to listen to it. I don't know. But to find that out on October 7th, that in sometime at some point, because Linda doesn't date it, but like it just doesn't make, it doesn't help you at all. And it doesn't help me feel good about you doing that for a third time that you didn't tell us, we discovered. And so that's why it feels weird, because it doesn't seem very honest. And that's all.
Well, I can understand why, the superintendent didn't reach out to you, Deb. But I would expect she might reach out to other council members. So in those circumstances, I think it would be helpful for everybody on the council in this effort to have transparency related to these similar conversations that they might be having. You understand?
If you're implying that I had any sort of conversation with anybody important like the state police or the superintendent about the mailer, I could tell you I didn't. But I can tell you you had 3 of them, at least.
Fine. I'm talking about the future.
If you have something that you want to call me out for, please, I invite it, because I didn't tell the state police. I am still sitting here confused about the information that you have as a member of the town council, that why on September 27th you would say, yep, we're not interested in pursuing criminal charges. I understand for the scope of the mailer, that is not a crime.
That's all
Without-
that the discussion was about with the state police. I don't know what more you want me to say about that. I think we've gone over
I
it.
think you've missed a huge point, and it's because it's confidential that I'm so confused, because you have missed a huge point.
I think maybe that hindsight here is better than 2020, and I think that had we had that piece of information, had you come to us and said, hey, I had this discussion, this is what I said to them, we wouldn't be having this conversation because the optics wouldn't be what they are. Can you see at least how that might, can you see how it might feel that way to us?
I'm sorry that you guys feel left out of this conversation with the state police. I tried to be very upfront with the officer. We had released the report when he first contacted me. I knew that we hadn't had a chance to discuss it as a council. So I said, this is going to come up for discussion at a future meeting, after which time I'll talk with you again and let you know how the conversation went. That's the sum of it. Now, honestly, I could have brought up the fact that the state police had called me during that conversation, but I think that would have been disclosing too much. You know, it's the police. I'm not. That was a conversation between me and him.
But
it wasn't
pertains to a
about
council
me
matter.
representing
He
what
was
the council
talking to
had
you.
done. It was me telling him I would relate what the council.
He was calling you in your role, though, and so you spoke for us. You spoke in your role.
He did not say that I was speaking for the council. I did not say I was speaking for the council.
Then why would he call you?
That's a great question. I honestly would prefer he hadn't and had just spoken to the solicitor, which I think would have been more appropriate, or town staff, or town police department, perhaps. He called me. So, like a good doobie, I spoke to him and told him what I could about the report and then our discussion about it.
I think that a mistake was made, and I think acknowledging that it was a mistake and setting up a way to prevent that from happening in the future would go a long way. But the first thing to do is admit that a mistake was made.
I think that given the whole circumstance again, I would have done that. If we had a policy, as we're discussing, about the president of the council or other members of the council relating any interaction, say, with the police or whoever, then I would have done that. I did, at the time, what I thought was in the best interest of the town, and I don't know. I mean, that's all I can say about that.
The action items we have are what?
We can't take action on this.
We can refer to the solicitor's office to communicate with the state police if we choose, correct?
You can refer something to the solicitor's office. You can't vote to take specific direction.
Hence, I'll be writing an email so that this will be on the next agenda and we can discuss it and take action.
And I think at a future meeting, either in executive session or regular session, I want a conversation with the whole town solicitor's office about roles, expectations, communication. I mean, It's 9 months into this term, and I'm learning that I can communicate to Mike, and he can communicate to all of them. And if that was new information to all of them, that's kind of a sad fact, because that would avoid some of this, and Abel could say, Mike, please pass on to the council that I did this. I don't know what to ask for. I'm relying on experts to help me do a good job for the community, and that was lacking. And I think all of this is clear to me, that I need to be asking for what I don't even, I shouldn't have to know to ask, like, is there another update that you need to give me? I didn't get one. I wouldn't know to ask it.
So I know that you'll be discussing this at a future meeting, and I think it is appropriate that Mike be there. But I just want to say the solicitor's office is hired by the entire council. Any member of the council can contact us at any time with questions.
And I do, and I don't always get a timely response or get the information that I need. So,
all right. Any further discussion on this item? All right, very good. Town manager's report.
Just a few items from the report. One is item C, which is a memo from Chief Stanley with regards to upcoming COVID-19 booster clinics. There will be 5 of them. One was scheduled for this afternoon. The others are on October 19th, 23rd, 26th, and the 30th, and those are for senior citizens and residents with underlying conditions, and those clinics will be held at South Road School. These dates will be posted on the town website, but that has begun. Also, item J, a piece of good news, also from Chief Stanley. He had a grateful resident who made a generous donation to the EMS department in thanks for the assistance that she received from the EMS department. And she did allow for us to disclose her name. Her name is Lucy Close, and she made a $2,000 donation to EMS, which will be put towards a piece of equipment that the department will be able to put to good use for the community.
That
So we're
deserves some applause.
very appreciative of Lucy.
Thank you.
A couple of items that were not included on the town manager's report but are worth reporting. You did receive late this afternoon in your email a memorandum that was requested at the last meeting with regard to some options and advisory on potential ordinance language for chickens and fowl, so you can take a look at that and decide what you'd like to do with that. We also had the opening of the St. Elizabeth's Adult Daycare Center last Tuesday. October 5th was an open house, and they are now in operation. That is the former South Kingstown Adult Day Services facility on Post Road, which the council agreed to partner with St. Elizabeth's by providing a 3-year lease of the building, of the facility, so that the town could continue with the adult day services in a local way. And so we do have some returning clients from when the facility closed back in June of 2020. So that's good news as well. And then one more item, which I'm not sure if the council wishes to discuss now, but you did receive a budget hearing and workshop schedule. There's one council person who has just one date that won't work. I don't know if you want to wait, if there's others who haven't had an opportunity to check the schedule, but if you'd like to discuss that now, we certainly can. It's a bit up to you.
I personally have not had a chance to go through and check with 2 kids' calendars and school and all that. So if we could hold off on that discussion, it would be helpful to me. I can make that a priority to get that done.
Agreed. It'd be helpful to me as well.
And that's all I have, unless anyone has questions for me.
Thank you, Terry. All right, that brings us to appointments.
I'll move to appoint Russell Bowe Brown to the Zoning Board of Review.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. Oh, for alternate number 1. Yes. Good luck. All right. 11B gives us the opportunity to appoint members to the Canvassing Authority.
I'd ask that we postpone this. I'm still mulling over how I want to attack the list of, I guess attack is kind of an aggressive word, how I want to comb through the list of, and see, there's a lot of things in the world happening right now with certification of elections, and I just want to make sure we're doing the right thing as we move forward, making sure our elections are secure and safe.
Amy Goins, I got a question for you relative to the statute surrounding the appointment to the Canvassing Authority. Are we limited to the people that are given to us by the respective parties, the Democratic Town Committee and the Republican Town Committee, as to appointment of these positions?
It is in the election statute 17-8-1. The legislative body of each city and town shall appoint a bipartisan canvassing authority of 3 qualified electors of the city or town, not more than 2 of whom shall belong to the same political party, and may appoint 2 alternate members, not more than 1 of whom shall belong to the same political party. And then I'm skipping down to the end. It does indicate that the mayor or the president of the town council shall nominate the members of the canvassing authority from lists of party voters submitted by the respective chairpersons of the city or town political committee, which list shall contain the names of 5 times the number of persons to be appointed.
So we are limited to those persons provided by the respective chairs of the parties?
Yep, under state law.
Got it. Thank you.
I'm comfortable appointing someone tonight. These are alternate positions. It just seems like we need to just cross another thing off the list. So I feel perfectly fine putting up 2 alternates. I don't, they may not serve.
So we've been offered 1 person from the Democratic Party chair and 5 names from the Republican Town Committee chair. Is that correct? So as the statute provides, we would have to appoint the 1 person that was provided by the Democratic chair, and we could appoint any of the 5 from the Republican committee chair. Am I interpreting this statute correctly?
Does the statute say they have to supply 5 names? Because we don't have that.
The parties have to, the party lists have to contain, you have to have 5 times as many names as there are seats to be appointed.
We don't have that from one of the parties. We just have it from.
So if a list of 5 times the available seats, in this instance 5, from one party chair, will never be able to appoint a member as an alternate from one respective party, i.e. only 1 name has been provided by the Democratic Party chair. You're saying there has to be 5 times the number of available seats. That would be there has to be 5 names provided. Otherwise, we can't appoint anybody from that party?
If the chairperson of the city or town committee of a political party entitled to an appointment fails or refuses to submit a list, the mayor or the president shall nominate any party voter of the political party entitled to the appointment. My interpretation, having just not having done background research, but having some experience with the election statutes, I would say not providing a sufficient list required by state law is tantamount to refusing to provide a list. So I think you can take that into consideration.
I think we should probably just ask the Democratic Town Chair for 4 more names. Probably the safest way about it.
Okay.
I move that we appoint Roland Benjamin as the Board of Canvassers alternate for the Republican seat.
All right. I hear no second, so we're going to move on from 11B to 12C. Resolution accepting for town ownership and maintenance the roads and associated infrastructure associated with the Sheldon Hills subdivision. The roads are identified as Abbey Road and Asbury Lane, as depicted in Map Book 2015, Map 29 of the South Kingstown Land Evidence Records. In support of this action, the developer has provided a $3,346.45 maintenance guarantee to the town's finance department. Said guarantee shall be for a period of 12 months for the date of completion and acceptance of work. This date shall be interpreted to be the same date as the town council acceptance of the street. The developer shall submit a deed, including a legal description for the streets, transferring ownership from Thomas A. Mort to the town of South Kingstown. Said deed shall be recorded in the land evidence records of the town, as further described in a memo from the Director of Planning to the interim town manager dated October 6th.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 12C.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries. 12D is a
Abel,
resolution.
if I can just interrupt, I don't know if we can go back to this. I'm looking at this, and I was trying to wrap my head around it very quickly while it was happening. We do have 5 from one party. Can I go back to this for a second? Sorry, I was a little behind the ball.
Yeah, we can go back to 11B.
If we have 5 from one party, do we have to wait until there are complete lists from both parties?
We don't have to. We can. This is an alternate member, so it's not affecting any functioning of government at this point.
So I guess I'm wondering what the benefit is if they've submitted the required number of names and they've given us their preference, why we would hold off on it.
Well, I guess one thing we could consider is interviewing them so we know the difference between the various 5 candidates. Like how do we make that determination at this point?
Question.
But if their party already has a preference, I'm just trying to look at it if it were the other way around, and it were the Democratic Party, and I would hope that the DTC would put forth the person that they think best reflects their values. So I would assume that the Republican committee would do the same. And in hindsight, I would have seconded that motion. I just didn't move fast enough, and I apologize for that.
It'll come back at us in 2 weeks. I'm stumbling because we have 5 names from the Republican Party. I'd like to speak to them all. We only have 1 name from the Democratic Party. I think that's 4 short of where we should be. We have 3 members of the Board of Canvassers. If someone tomorrow is unable to perform their duties, right, and we've only appointed 1 alternate, that person is going to step into that spot, correct, for that meeting? I don't want to be there. I want to be there with 2 names at the same time. People that I'm confident in, right? We all want to be confident. And so if someone tomorrow is unable to perform their duties, we're not putting 1 person in that voting spot. We have 2. right?
If I
So we
may.
have 2 Democrats and 1 Republican on the Board of Canvassers. If tomorrow, if one of the Democrats can't perform their duties, and we appoint the Republican alternate, they're going to, no?
They cannot step up for the other party. They are there to
Only
step in.
replace the one thing.
That's correct. That's correct.
So,
All right.
so
we
with that
still
being,
we only have 1 name from the Democrats. I need 4 more.
but we can appoint just to the Republican
You want to do that
position.
without talking to people, that's your call, but not mine.
I am not a Republican. I wouldn't even.
Right, but we do have to have some oversight of this board, and the
I
question-
understand. I do. I mean, if it's up again in 2 weeks, then I hope that we all do our homework and look at these 5 candidates and get it done at the next meeting.
I just want to say I feel very uncomfortable about this whole conversation because several times this has come up and there's a little bit of banter in the middle about whether you're appointing or not. So I want to put to bed that I'm not involved with that. But that is multiple times at this table just to appoint the Democrat. We're not ready. It's been a whisper over here and it's uncomfortable and I'm going to say it. I don't understand. The Republican Town Committee has put up 5 names. They've done their job correctly. The Democrats didn't do it correctly. And they have indicated that they would prefer Roland Benjamin. This does not seem like a very complicated thing. We are all familiar with Roland Benjamin. He is not a stranger to the Town Council chambers. He served on the school committee. He is an established businessman. We can spend a lot of time on it, but I feel very uncomfortable. I don't understand what's going on with the Democratic piece, but I'm going to say it. The whisper in the middle does not feel good to me.
I got a question for you, Amy Goins or Susan Flynn. Does acting as an alternate on the canvassing authority preclude you from being on any other board or running for office in any capacity?
You can't run for office on the canvassing authority.
But you can still serve on another board? Like I think Roland Benjamin's on the SMART committee. Is that something he'd have to? Oh, he's not. Okay.
May I ask when the next election could possibly be? June? Would that be a budget referendum?
At any time due to resignations.
An election?
Well,
It can happen at any time.
Okay.
Special election.
But there isn't currently. The next anticipated election could be the budget referendum, correct?
That would be the next potential election that we are aware of, yes.
Okay. That's June. 7 months.
That could be the only election, right? 'Cause if there's a resignation, then the next highest vote getter would take the seat for the council. If there's a resignation on the school committee, the council would appoint the vacancies. So the soonest election that could take place is June.
there would be potential if somebody resigned from the state legislature.
That could cause another election, yes.
And still probably months out. Okay. 12C is a resolution accepting for town ownership and maintenance. No, we did that. 12D, a resolution proclaiming the month of October to be Dysautonomia Awareness Month, as shown on Exhibit 1.
Rory McEntee, I'll make a motion to approve 12D.
Second?
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously. 12E is a resolution authorizing the purchase from Stryker of Redmond, Washington, of a Lucas 3 CPR compression device in an amount not to exceed $10,276, further described in a memo from the Chief of Emergency Medical Services to the Town Manager dated September 28th.
Rory McIntyre, I'll make a motion to approve 12E.
Jess Rose, second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That motion carries unanimously. 12F is a resolution rejecting the sole bid from fire equipment. Maybe we can take F and G together. Of Industrial Drive, Smithfield, Rhode Island, for fire alarm, fire extinguishers, sprinkler and suppression systems, inspection, testing, maintenance, and repairs in accordance with bid SK0008CD, is further described in a memo from the fire alarm superintendent to the interim town manager, dated October 1st. And then G is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to Metro USA Fire Protection of Pawtucket, Rhode Island, for fire alarm, sprinkler, and suppression systems inspection, testing, maintenance, and repairs in accordance with bid number SK0009CD for a period of 3 years beginning on November 1st, 2021. And there's the schedule of payments below.
Rory McIntyre, I'll make a motion to approve 12F and 12G.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That motion carries unanimously. 12H, a resolution authorizing an award of bid to Smithco Oil Service of Wakefield, heating fuel and maintenance for number 2, heating fuel and maintenance for the town and school departments for the period November 1st through October 31st, that's 21 through 2023, according to the terms and conditions of the bid specifications at the following price schedules, and is further described in a memo from the facility superintendent to the interim town manager dated October 1st.
Motion to approve 12H.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That motion carries unanimously. 12I, a resolution authorizing an award of contract to Quality Propane of Clinton, Connecticut for liquid propane maintenance service and associated materials according to the terms and conditions of the State of Rhode Island Master Price Agreement bid specifications at the following price schedules from September 1st, 2021 through August 31st, 2024, with the option to renew for 2 12-month periods based on sole discretion of the state. Further described in a memorandum from the facility superintendent to the interim town manager dated October 4th.
Rory McIntyre, I'll make a motion to approve 12I.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? Right, that motion carries unanimously. 12K is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to Batcher Corporation of East Windsor, Connecticut for a 2021 Excel Hustler Model X1 zero-turn mower, an amount not to exceed $9,412 with a $2,411.20 in funding to be expended from the Water Fund's unrestricted net assets, further described in a memo from the Public Services Director to the interim town manager dated October 1st.
Rory McIntyre, I'll make a motion to approve 12K.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? That motion carries unanimously. That brings us to the end of tonight's agenda. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Jess Rose, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, that motion carries unanimously, and this meeting is over at 9:52.